So
Okay.
that's how we can start.
Okay. Thank you for having me and Happy New Year, guys, to everybody. So I will be presenting upon the quantumness of Schrodinger cat states. I found this topic pretty interesting while I was working. Well, let's see. Firstly, let's see what a cat state is. So we know this little story about Schrodinger that a cat is put in a box with a poison food. There will be variations where there is a trigger that is triggered randomly with a radioactive atom. So let me explain this version where the cat is put in a box with the radioactive food. If the cat eats the food, it dies, and if it does not, it lives. So this actually, we know that when we open the box only, we can know that the cat is dead or alive. But before that, we do not know whether this is dead or alive. In fact, I was explaining this example to my mother so that it makes sense of quantum mechanics. She made it very clear. I mean, it was very clear. So, yes.
Raghav, sorry to disturb you, but your audio is breaking. I'm not sure. I think there's some internet issue from your side.
Okay.
I mean, is there a way that you can shift to some other network?
So this is Wi-Fi. This is pretty good speed Wi-Fi.
Oh, okay.
Let me know the next time if it breaks. I'll probably shift to some of the corner of the house.
Okay. Yeah, please carry on.
Okay. So here, this is very easy to understand until we include the term that before opening the box, the cat is in both alive and dead state, and that is where most of the people get confused. And this is what is the behavior, is the quantum behavior of this system itself. So well, this is about a cat. Cat is obviously not a quantum system, but we did in fact make a quantum behavior out of this classical macroscopic system. So let's see what quantum systems we can have. In fact, like as we can have atoms, and photons are pretty good quantum systems. So I had worked with those only regarding this topic. And so let's give you an outline of my talk. So before presenting the exact problem of my work, I'll probably tell you guys about the coherent states. And coherent states are like they are the most certain states. They have the least certainty, as in they are the states that are measured with the least uncertainty. So they are called classical states. They are obviously quantum, but they are called classical in the terms because they are measured with the least uncertainty. And then I will tell you how I got an inspiration for my project, and then we will see what is the quantumness of the Schrodinger cat thing. And then I have worked with cat states with photons and atoms, so we will see about that. So let's begin with coherent states. So this is like probably the little basic I was expecting you guys probably should know. So I'll give you a brief overview. So coherent states is based upon harmonic oscillator. We know the ground state of the harmonic oscillator is Gaussian, as you can see over here. Ashok, are you able to view my mouse? Or the cursor is visible?
Yes, it is.
Yes, okay. So the Gaussian state of the ground state of the harmonic oscillator has the least uncertainty. So when you take a Fourier transform of this Gaussian into the momentum domain, it becomes again a Gaussian. So a Gaussian in x and p coordinate will have the least uncertainty with the Heisenberg uncertainty. So well, ground state is fine. Sorry. So the ground state is fine. But do we have any other states which are Gaussian in nature, which are having least uncertainty? The answer to that question is that yes, there is a state which is a superposition of all the eigenstates of the harmonic oscillator. As you can see, this ground state, the first excited state, second excited state, third and fourth excited state, and so on until infinity. This is a superposition of all the eigenstates with a particular probability amplitude. And this alpha is a complex number which is defined by the amplitude of the electric field and the phase of the electric field in a laser beam. So a laser beam is actually a coherent state, which is Gaussian in nature, and it has a particular amplitude and a phase. And this is a quantum mechanical model of the laser beam. So when we look a laser beam in the phase space, that is x and p, we have the laser beam in a Gaussian state, and there is the least uncertainty, which provides the most classical interpretation of a quantum object. That is, it is the most predictable state. So, well, this is fine. So this is a coherent state. Then, we can create a superposition of two different coherent states. So this is a laser beam with pi with 0 phase difference, and this is a laser beam with pi phase difference, and we make a superposition of that gives us something called as a cat state. And this cat state, with respect to time, rotates like this, and there is an interference pattern in the middle. So this one blob of red color you see, right? This is one of the coherent states, and this is the other coherent state. So a superposition of that provides interference pattern, and interference obviously is not a classical phenomenon. So over here, what we see is with respect to time, this is, so with respect to time, the position and the momentum space expectation values are interfering, and they are having various values. So now it is p plus p and minus p like that. So a way to create this cat state is by interfering. We have a vacuum state and one photon state on a beam stator, and that one photon state, the vacuum state falls on the beam stator. And here we have a Kerr medium which interacts with this state, which is actually a superposition of these two states with the coherent state over here. And then over here we have the superposition states from here, which is retarded by a degree phi, which is retarded by a degree theta. And this theta is, so this theta, if it is 0 or 2 pi, it will be plus 1. So this term over this retardation will give you a phase difference of e theta with a over here. And then here, based on the measurements, we get alpha plus minus alpha, or we will get alpha minus alpha. We have two states in the B mode. So,
Raghav, sorry to disturb you. I think your audio is again cracking. Can I ask you to, if you're using any earphones, can you use the computer mic directly?
no, my computer mic does not work properly.
Oh, okay.
Is it breaking?
Okay.
The network is breaking, or is there is noise?
I think I can hear you well now, but sometimes it feels like maybe it's the noise from the earphone, or because network doesn't seem to break, your slides are fine, and the noise is also consistent.
Okay. Okay, I've turned off my fan. Let's see now.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So over here now we have this cat state, as in we can have either a electric field without any phase difference, or an electric field with a phase difference of pi. It is both. It is a superposition of both these states. So, well, now we have created a superposition of two classical states, as in the two most predictable states. We have created a superposition, and now what happens to its, the quantumness of this state. So where did I get this question is from this paper. I came across this paper where we have the quantum computation with optical coherent states by Lab, and he had explained very intricately how they were using coherent states in fact, with these two cat states. So this minus that you see over here is the e power I theta factor that I mentioned earlier. So we have two states and these are orthogonal to each other, and we can drive a quantum computer using these two states. And this is light based cat states. We also have atomic cat states where we deal with atom spins. And Mayar Mirhami is one speaker on Qiskit channel. He has also given pretty good explanation how cat states, these states are used in error correction and how they were used in superconducting medium to drive a quantum computer. So, okay, I said all about classical states and their quantum behavior, but how do we measure this quantum behavior? It is actually a term on classicality, and that includes all sorts of quantum phenomena, non-classical phenomena, that are inclusive of superposition, interference, and quantization. And so one of the measure to measure this non-classicality is through something called as Vygotsky information, and that is actually it's actually a uncertainty of a system with respect to a particular operator. So in the photonic systems, we have this operator defined by nu, and it works pretty well. So it is the uncertainty in the ladder operators, and in the atomic systems, there is an uncertainty in the angular-momentum operators. So we cannot make much of an insight now, but let's see how this works. So as mentioned earlier, the cat states that I mentioned earlier, the coherent states with the interference pattern in the middle. When I had this state on the non-classicality parameter defined by Luo, we got a graph like this, and it was pretty indicative that my state became more and more non-classical with higher and higher electric field. That is, as my laser got stronger, my system became more non-classical. This was pretty interesting to find out, and so over there is where I understood the point that so I have a state where my laser light is like this, and then I have a state where my laser light is like this. So there is a superposition of these two states. But until and unless we measure, we do not know what it is. And when you make a superposition of these two states, so this state will only have even number of photons. It will have only even number of photons. So the other state that I mentioned, xi is equal to alpha minus of minus alpha. This will have only odd number of photons. And this actually forms the basis of the paper that I mentioned earlier by T.C. Raj. So this was very nice to see. So we did a step higher. We went on to a superposition of not two but three coherent states, and that was defined. That is called a triangular Kittel state, and it is generally in the phase space. You divide your phase space into three angles, and you have three blocks of coherent state. It's interference pattern in the middle. So when we did that, we found that the non-classicality, that is, this system was having this sort of a bulge in non-classicality for some particular range of laser power. So this should probably move further. So we did with higher Kittel states. So over here, I took a square Kittel state, that is a superposition of four coherent states, and we had these sorts of interference patterns. And this actually means that there are four ways with two phase systems. And this was again increasing very linearly. So here we did a non-classicality on this state. Sorry, there should be interference patterns over here, 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 and here. So this one again, there was a increase in non-classicality within this region. So we went forward, and this is 10 different coherent states, that is each differing by 36 degrees. And then for a 25 different coherent state, we did like this. I mean, we got this non-classicality, which is coming to a plateau region in some ranges, and then it again increases linearly. For a 50 different coherent state, that is each coherent state differing by 360 by 50 angle. Again, the behavior was a step-like behavior which transits to a linear increase in quantum behavior. This was pretty interesting. And the implications of this, as per me, was that when you have a system, you have either no quantumness or, as per non-classicality, we should say, or there is some sort of quantumness, and then there is higher, and then there is higher quantum behavior. But then the serious implication of this thing is, well, in an experiment, when you fire a laser beam, and then you have beam splitters, and then you have mirrors and everything, there is attenuation that is going to take place, right? So we can actually see from this behavior that when you have a laser beam with this power, and alpha obviously means my electric field magnitude. So when you have this laser power, make sure you do not fall to this region. If you fall to this region, there is no quantum behavior in itself. So this is what we were able to interpret. We wanted to run our experiment in this range itself. But why was this very important? What is the source of this behavior? So I went on to do a theoretical derivation of this thing, and we found that for this pure states, that is, we have been taking all pure states only, my non-classicality was equal to my number operator, that is the number of photons. So for a 50 different coherent state, that is Kitten state of order 50, we have states that is like 0 plus alpha power 50 by root of 50 factorial of state of 50. And then there is states 100, and then there is the state 150, and so on. My number states were in ranges of 50 for 50 coherent state. Every other state gets cancelled very nicely because of the interference. So essentially, this plot actually gives a very good, reasonable understanding of where we can actually run our experiments in optic related phenomena, optic related experiments, to have a good stable experimental result. Yes, so this is one part of my project. Do I have any questions up to this?
Maybe I can ask a question here.
Sure.
So you say non-classicality, you measure it by this Q psi, this Q operator, where you take A dagger A average and minus A average, A dagger average,
Yes.
right? So what exactly are you calculating here?
What am I calculating over here?
Yeah.
So this is basically derived from something called as Wigner skew information, which is basically your commutator of rho with respect to some operator. So it is something like this. It is basically uncertainty with respect to some operator. In simple terms, it is just uncertainty with respect to some operator. Over here, it is the uncertainty with respect to ladder operator. If you see, this will give you the same. It is just a measure of how uncertain your system can be in general. In fact, we can have a photon, as in we can have the uncertainty in phase space given like this, or we can also have the uncertainty given by the number of photons multiplied by the variance in the phases of the photons. So this is what provides us with uncertainty.
Mhm.
And this uncertainty is what gives a measure of a quantum behavior of a quantum system. If the uncertainty is very, very minimal, the system is said to be least, it is the most classical system.
Mhm.
So the higher the clarity or the higher the value of this Q, the more quantum your system is. In fact, as I mentioned earlier, this paper was based upon coherent states. So we do quantum computing using coherent states, which are classical in nature.
Mhm.
So how are we able to do quantum computing using classical states? And that was the question. That is what this work indicates. In fact, we go forward to measure the quantum behavior of these two states, which is a superposition of two classical states.
Mhm.
So the implication of this part of the project was that we were able to find out that if there is a superposition of more and more coherent states, we have non-classicality behaving very differently. I mean, my system is up, has a particular quantum behavior for a particular intensity of the laser.
Mhm.
So this has pretty good experimental results also, which can be verified experimentally also. This is the future direction, in fact. So yeah, so when we do this, we actually get for so this is okay. Sorry, this is alpha plus minus alpha. When you have this, oh yeah, sorry, it is here. When you have this, you have only the even number of photons. And when you have a phase difference, so this should be minus, you have only the odd number of photons. And this is where the quantum behavior comes in. You do not have states like 2, you do not have states like 4 and everything. And for higher number of kittens, for higher number of coherent states, we have only 0 photons, 50 photons, and 100 photons, so on. So this implies that we have a particular strength of the laser beam where we can do our experiment without being affected or being worried about the illumination. So our experiment is supposed to run in this laser range. Yes, any other questions? Was my answer satisfying?
Yeah, I think it was good.
Okay, good. So, okay, there are no questions. Let me move forward.
So there's a question in the chat.
Oh,
Uh, just a minute. So Ramakrishnan is asking again, how is this uncertainty measured? Can you just go over it once again? How do you? I mean, what uncertainty is it? Like, what does it mean to be? I mean, what are you uncertain about? Maybe if you can explain it in simpler terms.
okay. Okay. Okay, I will probably need a feedback because I guess you guys are from engineering background, most of you.
Mhm.
Okay, so
I am not sorry, but carry on.
okay, cool. So generally, we have uncertainty as in you measure operator 1 and then you measure operator 2, right? If these two are non-conjugate, then when you measure operator 1, your system becomes an eigenstate of operator 1. And then when you measure operator 2, your system is no longer an eigenstate of operator 1.
Mhm.
So that results in something like you are not able to determine operator one and operator two simultaneously. But when you try to do that, you are limited by Planck's constant. This is what is called inverse uncertainty principle. So whenever we have some uncertainty, we say that my system is not really classical. In fact, there is uncertainty up to the Planck constant level in every aspect of your life. You can determine that your football is on this point and coherent states are special states. They are Gaussian in nature, and hence you can actually measure them to the most precision allowed by nature. So, okay. So this is a special state because in measure this
Raghav,
state.
your voice is breaking a lot.
Okay, 1 second. I will just do some other please. Yes, are you able to hear me now?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. So these coherent states are states that are we can measure them to the utmost accuracy allowed by nature.
Mhm.
Now these are very certain. I mean, these are the best states to work with. The coherent states being the most certain are the best state to work with. But then these are also quantum in nature. That is, these are also quantized. You see, you have quantization of energy over here.
Mhm.
So this is what we were working upon. We were trying to determine whether the system that we choose is quantum or classical. I think
Mhm.
classical up to the limit allowed by nature.
Mhm.
We do not have zero uncertainty. We always have some uncertainty, but to what level? So this coherent state is having the least uncertainty. That is very known, very well known. So we were making a superposition and we were trying to find out how this superposition affects our uncertainty by the principle of superposition itself being a quantum phenomena.
Mhm.
So because of this, we were having some uncertainty. As you see, when this graph gives an interference pattern, you are not able to determine your x and p simultaneously at one instant. So when
Mhm.
p is having very less variance, your x is having a lot of variance. So yes, if you are
Which
able
one
to
is X?
understand,
Which one is P? You haven't labeled your axis.
this is x and this is p.
Okay.
So now your when your p is like this, your x is like this.
Yeah.
X is having very little variance, but then p is over here and here. You do not know which is it.
Mhm.
So this is what is uncertainty.
Mhm. I see. I think we can carry on. We can carry forward to next part of your talk.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's all about how a system, superposition of a classical system becomes non-classical with respect to uncertainty. So this was okay. I guess when I do with the atomic states, you will guys will have some clear understanding because that is a little bit more experimental. So let's see. So we saw optical coherent states as eigenstates of all the harmonic oscillator states. Now, using atoms, we are able to create coherent states with respect to its angular momentum. That is, So the system is the following. You have n atoms, and then you have these atoms in spin half configuration. That is, you have only spin half atoms and there are n atoms. So you can have your total angular momentum from minus n by 2 to n by 2. Am I right? So for a two spin half atom, your states can be oppositely oriented. So there is a magnetic field that is applied. And when they are oppositely oriented, your total angular momentum is 0. When they are oriented upwards, your total angular momentum is 1. And when they are oriented downwards, your total angular momentum is -1. So over here, we have a system with this configuration, and we can make something called as a coherent state over here also. And these are for n atoms. Now, these n atoms are in such a state that your uncertainty in angular momentum is the least. So when you measure your angular momentum, then upon applying a magnetic field with your precessional frequency, you can measure your angular momentum. That is the least for coherent state. So how do you make a superposition of two coherent states? So over here, I am having, you are having actually two states, plus half and minus half. You make a particular superposition of these two states and you have a state which is also coherent, and that is oriented by an angle theta to the external magnetic field. Okay. Now this you do by sending an atom which is a superposition of ground and excited state through a cavity containing all the atoms in the ground state, and then you apply an external coherent state, external coherent laser beam state, and that pulls the entire atom region to a coherent state as given over here. So you have a particular superposition of all the angular momentum states with a particular probability distribution, and this variable over here tau is your tan theta by 2 e power i5, which is basically the EM drive. It is basically the amplitude of your electric field and its phase. So it can be mapped like that. So now what you do is, when you have created this coherent state over here, you apply a plus and a minus potential over here, and there is a little bit electric field which pulls your atom up and down. That is, your atom splits, your atoms ensemble splits into spin up and spin down systems. And then again you send another resonant atom which is a superposition of ground and excited state, and when you do that, your system gets entangled, and upon measuring the state of this resonant atom when it comes out, you get your system in a superposition of these two states. That is, the system is pointing in two directions simultaneously. It is a superposition of two directions. So only upon measuring you will know what is the system. Until and unless, you will not know. So this is a cat state, and then when you measure the non-classicality with respect to the angular momentum, you get that for a two spin system, you have a system which is always non-classical, and that is because your system is either up or down, right? These are the only two possibilities, and it is always both all the time. So it is always non-classical with respect to theta. And then for a 3-atom system, so you can have up, down, up, or whatever configurations are possible. Now the thing is, over here we have the highest non-classicality when my system is pi by 2. It is perpendicular to the applied magnetic field. That is, when your system is having three different coherent state superposition on the equator itself. So this is what we come across. That is, if my system is perpendicular to the applied magnetic field, we have a superposition of spin up and spin down, both with equal probability, right? So this was very new. So moving forward, we did one more thing. We took out time varying cat state. So we have a time dependence, and then we have the number of atoms that we can have. So we will have, say, 5 number of atoms, and this 5 numbers of atoms are sent in an EM drive. I mean, an EM drive is sent to this volume of atom, and this volume should be very, very less than your wavelength. So when you do that in a dissipative system, due to nonlinearity effects and everything, at particular times you are able to get some states which are superposition of two different coherent states. So you have that whenever your system has a theta equal to pi by 2 value and your time equal to pi by 2 value, that is, you have the Bloch sphere and you have your equator and you apply a magnetic field. So over here we are having J equal to one system with two atoms. So spin half, right? So 2 by 2, your J is this. So you have an atom which is oriented perpendicular to the applied magnetic field, and there is another coherent state. And this can be, this angle over here can be anything. It can be, this phi can be anything. So irrespective of that, you have the system which is most non-classical. So moving forward, we did it for higher number of states. So this is so this is for 3 atom states, and for this 3 atom state, what you visualize is that this is having equal non-classicality for a longer period of time, right? So for even higher states, that is even a higher number of atoms, you find that the time for which the system is non-classical is increasing. So this is for a 6 atom state. That is, you have 6 atoms in a volume, and that volume is in cat state, as I described earlier. It is most non-classical for a larger number of times, for a larger time, when it is at pi by 2. So you have the states. So this is 6 atoms. So you will have 6 coherent states like this. So 6 coherent states will be oriented like this, and your magnetic field is across your computer or your phone. So when you have the system, your coherent states are perpendicular to the magnetic field. And when they are perpendicular to the magnetic field, it actually implies that there is equal number of states above and below on the top and the bottom hemispheres. So that is why you are not able to determine whether the system is oriented in angle theta or minus theta. So this is what you mean by uncertainty. You see, like you were having this question of uncertainty, right? You do not know whether it is theta or minus theta. All you know that it is persisting with a frequency omega, but you are not sure where it is, which one it is. Yes, so any questions? No?
I think it's clear.
Okay, so here I have described a 4 atom state. You have your magnetic field and you have 4 different atoms which provide 8 different coherent states, and their non-classicality is even higher, and they are non-classical for a larger period of time. So to summarize, we found that photon states are becoming more and more non-classical with increasing laser power, and atom states are Atom catch states are more non-classical when they are prepared perpendicular to the magnetic field, and they are non-classical for a lot more time when more atoms are used. And that is simply just because your J is higher. So the interaction between your J and your magnetic field is higher. So I'm actually looking forward for experimental verifications of these results, and I am pretty sure that atomic and photonic catch states can be connected. This was a work done by Arechi and Gilmore in their paper in 1997, and so I was actually expecting how their non-classicality can also be connected. And we know that catch states, these coherent states, when you have a noisy system, let's say you have alpha plus minus alpha, and you have noise. So noise is applied on both the states, and it is also applied on the state which is orthogonal to this. So when you have noise on both these states, they are still orthogonal even after the noise is applied. So noise do not affect cat states very much with respect to their orthogonality, and they are very noise endure systems. And so I was pretty interested to find out how they are, how their non-classicality is affected with noise, as in, do they disintegrate to classical systems with noise, or how is their non-classicality varying with noise? So yeah, this is the summary of my talk, and here are some references and connect if you wanted to. Thank you. If there are any questions, I'm open to it, any discussions or anything. Thank you so much.
Yeah, very nice talk, Raghav. Do we have any questions from the audience? I guess no at this point. So thank you, Raghav, for such a nice talk.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me stop presenting.